Sometimes people have what it takes, but they haven't recognized it yet. Just go forward. So what do you need to do? How do you stand out? So what you need to do is be that person that's different and is bigger than you think. Rise from the ashes and fly like the phoenixes that you are. Everybody, this is Andrew. We are talking today. The question is how do you make decisions? How do you make better decisions? How do you make good decisions? And in studying this, I know that we could bring people on that are, psychologists, and they could dive into things. And my color is off. Sorry. They could get into all sorts of different elements from a psychological standpoint, why we do it. And I'm going to talk about some of that. But it was interesting to me, the more articles and studies that I was reading about decision-making, it's easy to see as you read someone's article, it's easy to see their perspective, right? The more that I am immersing myself into personal development and growth, and we're looking at affirmations over the last, few months and doing all of these things and trying to be positive in as much that I do, it's becoming easier and easier for me to see when people are on the other side of that coin. I mean, I'm looking at these articles and they're talking about decision-making, and they're coming at it from a perspective that you suck at making decisions. You're no good at this, right? Every decision you make is bad, and every decision you make is going to harm you. It's going to hurt. Like article after article. And so what I did is I copied a few of the points that they make. And what I'd like you to do is work with me on this and give me, instead of how they've got it written, I want you to give me some other options on how to look at decision-making, but doing it from a positive perspective. Does that make sense? So look at how they framed it and then say, how can I frame this in a way that would give me a positive outlook or an opportunity to look at it from the other side of the coin? Okay. That's what we're trying to do right now. So let me share the screen first, and you can either do this audibly. So this is some of the biases that we deal with: cognitive bias, omission bias, confirmation bias. We talked about this yesterday, right? Different types of biases, right? Great. And who is it? Is it Chris? Can you keep an eye on the waiting room for me? Excellent. Okay. So
Andrew.
Yes, yeah.
Is this for real or this is hypothetical?
What do you mean?
I'm asking, did this really happen? Or
yeah, I'm taking the take note of your overconfidence was taken directly from an article that I was reading about this on, and I can get you guys the articles later, but yeah, so they took that, and I was reading these and I went, it seems like almost every one of these that I was reading, the author was writing it from a perspective that I felt was a bit negative. And so what I'm asking you guys to do is kind of look at it and say, all right. And with the understanding that, yeah, we make bad decisions sometimes, guys. I get that. We do. I've made more than my fair share. But also, as I'm going through life and I'm looking at decisions, I'm trying to approach it from a sense of not, when it comes to making decisions, there's the optimist, there's the pessimist, there's the realist. How are you looking at it? Is it glass half empty? Is glass half full? You look at your decision. How are you in life? And the place that you're at when you make your decision affects it. The age that you are affects it. What's happening financially in your life at that moment will affect any decision, things that you are doing. But if you look at every decision, if you go into it with the defeatist attitude, or this attitude that every decision I make is going to inevitably be wrong, and so I have to, pad myself, insulate myself from the the downfall or whatever is going to come after that, that's an issue. That's going to hamper your decisions as you go forward, right? You're making it from a victim standpoint of, hey, it's going to just suck anyway. So then we either don't make a decision, which is a decision in and of itself, or we just go, well, whatever, the better of the worst scenarios. It's almost like when it comes to electing politicians, you just pick the best of the worst in so many categories, right? The consequences could be negative. So fear stops you. So I was talking about that, as you've made your decision, what pushes you to make them? That's why we look at our cognitive biases and other things. So these steps here that I'm giving are steps that these articles that I read, and I kind of compiled different ones. They're saying this is what you should do before you make big decisions. So I want you to look at them, and we want to go over some positives. So the first one is, take note of your overconfidence. Okay. So another way, and I saw someone else that talked about, lack of confidence. Right? So what is a way that we can frame this just to remove the negativity and be more neutral? It doesn't always have to be positive, but how can we be more neutral in saying this? Anybody?
Like making a list of pros and cons, and being like aware of what could happen either way. Like, I don't know.
Okay. Pros and cons and evaluating in that way is something that is actually kind of on the next slide. But so really the key element here is our confidence, right? Push you in the right direction. Absolutely. Forrest, I love his stuff. So understanding your hesitations. I think a simple thing, guys, and maybe I'm over explaining, but right here is just your confidence, where of your confidence level and where you're at. So as I'm looking at this, what I want you to do, any decision, am I extremely overconfident of this, right? Like oftentimes we overestimate, we're overconfident in what we can accomplish in a short period of time, or we are severely underconfident in our abilities, even though we have some of those abilities, we underestimate what we're capable of. Take note of your confidence level. Am I approaching this with this crazy amount of confidence that just doesn't make any sense at all? Or am I so negative about this and my abilities that I'm sabotaging before I even begin? Right? So take note of your confidence level. It helps to distinguish between ego, narcissism, overconfidence, and underconfidence. All of those, absolutely agree, Hartley. So how are you looking at it? Are you overinflated? Are you underinflated? Or are you just confident that, I'm going to do this? Confidence doesn't mean that you have all of the capabilities right away. It doesn't mean that you know every step that's going to transpire during the process, right? So yeah, the mindset is important with all of this. Sally, which is kind of what we're looking for. Yep, Michael, be realistic, go for balance. Okay, identify the risks that you're taking. Now, this kind of goes, Maria, to what you're talking about, pros and cons and things like that. Risk versus reward. So I would say instead of just identify the risks, I would say identify the balance of risk versus reward, right? Or that you undertake. I mean, there's different ways to write this, and I know it can be done better. I'm just trying to do this quickly here as we go through it. A lot of times we look at decisions and we evaluate much more strongly the risks, or we only look at the rewards, or we ignore one or the other completely. This goes back to that balance, right? Looking at things as much from a neutral standpoint as possible, and looking at how I'm, focusing on things. Oftentimes, what is going on in your life, and this is where self-awareness again is going to come in. What is happening in your life, being aware of what's happening, will help you see why you're evaluating more of one than the other. Okay. Next, frame your problems in a different way. So if we're looking to make a decision, instead of just saying problems here, I just say decisions, because framing it in a different way. So instead of saying, how could I say this? So imagine two surgeons, right? Two surgeons walk in, and it can be looked at in multiple dimensions: physical, monetary, mentally. Absolutely, looking at all of them. So two surgeons walk in, and one says, look, you got to, and this may or may not be the best example, you got a 10% chance of 10% of the people that undertake the surgery die. 10% of them. And the other one comes in and says, look, 90% of the people that undertake this survive. They live and go on to live happy and healthy lives. Now, if a doctor comes in and understand this person's in a situation where it's going to be difficult either way, right? There's a chance of death either way without the surgery. So then they come in and say, look, surgery, you've got 10% chance of dying. Or other surgeon comes in and says, there's a 90% chance of living. The people that hear the 10% chance of dying are going to focus on that, right? The others that hear the 90% are going to focus on that. There are things that happen when you look at what's going on, and this is where understanding all of these different elements of what's happening is important, because without that, it's hard to make the decision that you need to. So framing it differently. Look, if I undertake this, if I make this decision, then I've got this, this is likely to happen, or this is likely to fail because of X. However you focus on that is going to influence how you make your decisions. If you're looking to be more positive in how you do things, it doesn't mean that I'm going to go into situations with blinders on. But all of these little things happen to create a sense of bias within us, right? So framing occasionally the situation differently can help you, okay? Next is stop thinking about the problem. Now, this almost goes back with the risk versus reward. If I'm sitting and the only thing I'm thinking about is the problem, then I'm not going to be able to find the solution as much. Our subconscious minds are amazing things. Our subconscious mind, if given a certain situation, if the focus is on the solution, our subconscious minds will actively go out to try and find a solution for it, because it's able to process, many exponentially larger volumes of information than our conscious mind. Whatever we give our subconscious mind to work on, it's going to work on. So if we give it the problem, it's going to find all of these different ways that the problem is going to continue to manifest itself. If we look at the solution, it's going to look for different ways to bring about a solution. So instead of stop thinking about the problem right here, I would start thinking about the solution. Okay. Whenever you're faced with a decision, start looking for ways to solve the problem. When you say, I just don't have funds for that, then your subconscious mind is going to shut down any efforts to find funds, to find the money. If you tell yourself, if I find the funds for this and that can happen, or this is something that I need to happen, this is something that I want to happen, your subconscious mind will go on its merry way trying to find a solution for you, right? If you say, I just can't handle doing this many push-ups in a day, I can't handle doing this, taking this many steps, that's what's going to happen. If you say, I think I can find the time throughout my day to make this work, your subconscious mind will give you subtle reminders throughout the day when the time is there and available to make that happen. If you tell yourself, I always struggle, I don't like being on video. If you say that over and over and over again, then you're going to struggle with it. If you tell yourself, I know I can learn how to be on video and be comfortable with it because that's going to facilitate my business growth, your subconscious mind will begin to work at ways and chip away at the negativity that's inside your brain. So start looking at that. Next, set aside time to reflect on your mistakes. Man, I read almost this same line verbatim in a handful of different articles, and it just made me cringe. What would you, from a different perspective, even if it's a neutral perspective, it doesn't necessarily have to be positive, but from a different perspective, how would you guys rewrite this? When it comes to making decisions, instead of simply setting aside time to reflect on your mistakes, what is something else you can do?
Reflect on your achievements.
Okay.
I would say, how could I have done it better?
What's another way to just say, how can I have done it better? Because that's almost reflecting the negative too. So great thought, but how could I say that a little differently?
Would a different approach have better outcomes?
Okay. What approach will
And what approach
will improve.
will improve results?
Yeah. Okay.
And I agree with Rick. I mean, I think we reflect too much on failures, mistakes, and just the language itself sets you up for, man, this is.
Yeah, we do.
Yeah.
And this phrase I saw in a handful of articles, like, look at you spend extra time looking at how you suck.
Yeah.
Let's sit down and look at what a failure I am. Good
Well,
Lord.
I was going to say, and I've heard for many decades, the word weakness is a horrible word to use. You could just put there where you're lacking some strength. What muscles can you exercise rather than just saying weaknesses?
Right.
Yeah.
So instead of simply looking at the weaknesses, what other achievements, what approach is going to improve the results? How can I become even better than I am right now?
Right.
Right.
Yeah. Build on that.
It goes to the simple. It's one of the reasons why this challenge, if done appropriately, what we're pushing you guys to do right now can help with all of this, because it continues to establish daily this idea that you're improving, that you're getting something done, that you're following through, all of this, right? If every time you sit down to look at a decision, you think about all the shit decisions that you made throughout your life, then it's going to be a rough time, because we've made those. I don't need to reflect every single time on those, but if I'm going to stop and I'm going to look, because we have to once in a while, right? Realistically, we look at what there is. So I look at that decision. Okay, what led me to that decision? Okay, what needed to improve? How have I improved already since then? What did I learn from that? Oftentimes, that's the biggest thing. What did I learn from that decision? And as long as you've learned it, how can I apply that to what I'm going forward with, right? Instead of saying, all right, how did I screw up? I say, okay, what did I learn? Great. Can I apply what I learned here? Is the situation relevant? It is? Great. I'm going to apply that. I'm going to make this shift. And then look at some of those successes, some of those achievements. Now, this challenge that we're doing, it's every single day. Some of you guys are posting in there, I got my stuff done. I did it. Denise, I don't even know if she's on here right now. I didn't get a chance to say, like, she posted her video in, she's not on there right now, Denise Rowe. So she posted her video in the chat today. She gave me one yesterday, right? I gave her a challenge. Hey, do your video, send it to me. She did it. Done. And the great thing was that she started talking about a topic that she had said on the call with all of us. Hey, this is what I'm struggling with my videos. That was the topic of her video. She gave herself the topic. The point is, she got it done. The more you make those decisions, these little things daily, that strengthens your resolve. So when the time comes to make a new decision, you've had this positive reinforcement now for days, weeks, months, hopefully years. Hey, I make constant good decisions. I can make this decision as well. That's where it works into. Okay, so Curtis, look at the success you've had. What have I learned from the past? Aurora, perfect. Michelle, I just joined. Love this. Good. Yep. How can I push myself to be better? Absolutely. What's the next step to improve? Absolutely. There you go. Failure is a dress rehearsal for the main event. Only if you stop, though, right? I know that's a quote, but failure is quitting. Really, that's what it is. Failure is saying, I'm not going to start again. I'm going to quit. I'm throwing in the towel. Everything else is a learning process, right? Like what I've been saying lately, I must not dwell on my past, but must focus on the present and future. Yeah, I learned from my past. I deal with what I have to now in order to prepare for my future, right? There's so many different phrases and ways to look at that. So set aside time to reflect on your mistakes. Nope. We're going to, how do we cross that out? I don't know. Where is it? Is that it? Anyway, you guys know what I'm doing here. Ignore that. I'm going to give you guys, the slides are going to be in there. Next, acknowledge the shortcuts. Now, remember this phrase yesterday, the heuristics? Where is that at? Heuristics. A heuristic is a technique, approach to problem solving that uses practical method or various shortcuts in order to produce the solutions that may be optimal. Essentially, the individuals work to reduce the effort they need. It offers us a general guide to follow. It reduces the effort needed to make the decision. Okay, so as we look at the shortcuts, now, instead of the shortcuts, I would just shortcuts I don't think are inherently bad, but what we want to do is, what's another way that we can talk about this? We're talking about the heuristics here. So what we're talking about is as we make decisions constantly, right? And there's a reason that some of this happens because we don't pay attention. We start to create these little habits. That's why fast food, you eat it once, it doesn't, it's just the easier thing. I don't have to worry about, figuring out a menu. I don't have to worry about making lunch. I don't have to do anything. I've already made the decision. I've created the pathway that all I got to do is order a quick fast food, boom, done, and I'm moving on throughout my day, right? It's a quick shortcut that we create because every single day we do that. It's easy. It's a lot easier than having a prep meal beforehand. Bring something, right? It's also, we don't notice oftentimes how those shortcuts can affect us. So that's why after having done that for months and months, you all of a sudden look up and go, why don't these pants fit anymore, damn it? So instead of just, evaluating your shortcuts, what's another way that we can look at the processes that we're creating for ultimately a successful decision-making process is what we're looking to do. So what's another way to say that? Work with me. I know that was a long-winded question, but work with me, guys.
About optimize the process.
There you go. How can I optimize the process for success? Right? How can I optimize this for success? What shortcuts can I utilize to lead me toward? Oftentimes it's just those little bit. Yes, it's semantics. And I know some people are listening and saying, well, I don't need to add anything to that's going to make a difference. Guys, the more that you talk about success, abundance, wealth, and when we're talking about all of this stuff, you don't have to use like these affirmations and say, I'm successful right now. You can say, I'm in the process of. How can I optimize this process for success? How can I streamline this process to allow me to make quality decisions, right? Those little bits of semantics start to seep into our subconscious, like we were just talking about. And if I'm constantly feeding myself in my subconscious that I'm working towards success, that I make decisions that guide me towards success, that the decisions I make are in line with my core values, with things like that, all of a sudden, that's what my subconscious tries to do. When I stop thinking of the problems and I start looking at the solutions, the subconscious is going to look for solutions that guide me to success. Use of language has a huge effect on the subconscious. Absolutely. Because that's where our subconscious gets fed, is what we say and what we hear.
Excuse me. I was going to say, Andrew, the use of the word shortcut implies that you're removing steps in order to get there quicker.
Yeah.
Where optimization is more about making the process more efficient.
Yeah. Isn't it crazy how we grew up? How many of you guys, when you think of a shortcut, what do you think of? You're shortchanging it. You're taking out what's needed. No, it's a shortcut. Yeah, but how many of you really, if you think about it, have a bad feeling about shortcuts? Oh, you're taking a shortcut. Oh, okay. Whereas, yeah, Mike's talking about optimization. If I optimize this, that means what am I doing? I'm taking a shortcut. But I'm just getting rid of the fat. I'm cutting it out. I don't need all the other stuff. And so often that's what happens. There are shortcuts to success. But what is even more powerful is giving you a pathway that's optimized to help you achieve success at a faster rate. Yeah, language absolutely matters. 100%. Okay. So acknowledge your shortcuts becomes optimize your process for success, right? Next, label your emotions. When you think of labeling things, same feeling as shortcut? I'm going to label it, right? We don't like labels right now. Nobody likes labels. So instead of labeling your emotions, what is an empowering way of saying that?
Acknowledge.
Acknowledge. Perfect. Become aware of. Acknowledge. Acknowledge your emotions. Emotions aren't bad. They are not inherently bad at all. Sorrow, fear, anger, most of those are based on our nature as human beings. We experience emotions because we are people. Understanding and acknowledging the emotions, recognize, all these different words for it. Whatever you're more comfortable with, just pay attention to whatever word you use, that what you're doing is acknowledging it doesn't necessarily empower them, but it recognizes that they're there, right? Everything should be made as simple as possible, but no simpler. There you go. But acknowledging those emotions and allowing them to happen, and then saying, okay, so why am I experiencing that? What's going on? Why is that fear there? Why is that joy there? What's happening right now, right? So acknowledge the emotions. I'll make that adjustment. Now, a couple of quick things. These are already in a little bit more positive light. So use both sides of your brain. The right brain, emotional intelligence, is intrinsically linked to behavior, the important decisions we make throughout our lifetime. So use both sides. It's not just logic. Emotion should be involved in decision making. You can't be just 100% logical. That's where the risk reward, do that part, do the other part as well. Okay, a couple of things. Visualize your future successful self. Recognize the power behind each decision that you make. Don't ask other people what you should do unless they've already gotten there. And then even when people have achieved it and you ask what you should do, look at where they're at in their life when they made that decision, if they made the same decision. Right? Does that make sense? Too often you guys are asking people that, have no business. I remember, I think for me, one of the easiest examples of that is when, after my divorce, I one of the first things I did is I went and I opened up a new personal bank account, right? Done with the joint accounts, need a personal one. So I go in and I open a personal bank account. And for the first year and a half, what was coming into the account wasn't necessarily great. And occasionally I'd have to go in and I'd talk with my personal banker about why it was in negative right now and when it was going to be positive. And hey, it's okay, right? Those ups and downs that we face. Then things started to turn around. More money started to come in. And then more money started to come in, and there were direct deposits from a couple of different sources starting to come. And I remember after, going in, and all of a sudden the attitude is different. Things are changing. Things are going great. And then I go in and I go to talk to him about, finally get my own credit card again, like a good one. Talk to him, got an account open, credit card account opened up. And the same banker that I've been working with for years asks me, hey, I know when you first came in, like I couldn't even qualify for a regular checking account when I first came in. Like I needed I couldn't get a regular debit card. It was just this whole mess, right? So I said, you've been with us for a while. You and I have been working for a while, but hey, I've noticed over the last while, like things are going better. You're doing well. Like, you're getting paid regularly. Things are happening, but what are you doing? What's going on now? Well, I'm, working online. I got an online business. Really? Yeah, that's what I'm doing. Okay. Man, I don't know. I just don't know if I would.
Is in negative form.
I just don't know if I would do that. Yeah, I did. Hartley at the time I did. But he just goes, I just don't think that's going to work. Those internet, none of those are actually real. None of it's going to work. And I remember thinking to myself, like, okay, stick with your, $14 an hour job. I'm going to go keep doing what I'm doing. Right. Too often we ask people's opinions on things that have no relevance to their life. And they're just giving an opinion based on where they are. Don't make your decisions based on what other people tell you to do. Okay. Okay. Ask yourself the right questions. So not just what's going to happen if this goes wrong, but how would this work out? Who else is going to be effective when I do live up to what I should, when I push myself, when I do X, Y, Z. Ask yourself the right questions. Don't simply ask negative questions. Align your life with core values. We've talked about this a number of times before, but decide for yourself how you want to live your life. Align yourself with that. Tell your subconscious consistently through affirmations and through other things how you want to live your life and the solutions that you're going to have. And your subconscious will work on helping you get that. And then whatever you decide to do, get after it, grit and drive, work your ass off. Whatever you decide, go all in, do it. Don't half-ass it. Don't decide to do something and then drag your feet. Get after it. Right? This challenge right now, if you're going to do the push-ups, do the push-ups. If you're going to go for the walk, do the walk. You're going to do a video every day, do the video. You're going to start your business, launch your damn business, boys and girls. Get it going. Make it happen. Right? Let's get working. It's none of my business what you think of me. There you go, Rick. Absolutely. Guys, training is going to be in the Google Drive here in just a little bit. You're going to have that. I just want you to think about your decisions. Be more aware. Be more aware of that internal dialogue that you give yourself on a consistent basis. Look for solutions to every decision that you make instead of simply the problems that you're facing at the time. Somebody has overcome them. All of the problems that you face, guys, as unique and amazing as each one of you are, none of you have a problem that someone else hasn't overcome at one point, and another person has completely succumbed. Which pathway are you going to take? And how do you get to overcome and achieve all the time? That's the pathway you guys are on. That's what we want to help you achieve. So get out, make it happen. Have an awesome day. I will see you guys tomorrow. I'll have this in the chat here shortly. If you are interested in it, everyone should have gotten a link for it, but Thursday night, I'm going to have another open Q&A. If you got questions about anything, feel free to hop on. Some of you did, but I appreciate you guys. Go out, have an amazing day. Sometimes people have what it takes, but they haven't recognized what it is. Just go forward. So what do you need to do? Partners. How do you stand out? So what you need to do is be that person that's different and is bigger than you think. Rise from the ashes and fly like the phoenixes that you are.